I'm Kriti Yadav from BFFO and today I'm going to discuss le présent, that is the present tense. Le présent in French corresponds to the simple present tense in English. It talks about facts, current situations, and repeated actions in the present, as well as scheduled future actions. To conjugate a verb in French present tense, we add specific endings to the infinitive of the verb depending on the ending of the verb. Since the conjugation of the verbs depend on how they end, let us see the different types of verbs that there are. There are verbs ending in ER, verbs ending in IR, verbs that end with RE, verbs that end with DRE, verbs that end with DRE, and verbs that end with OIR. And then there are some irregular verbs, and I will discuss the conjugation of some of the most commonly used irregular verbs that are avoir, être, aller, and faire. Now let us understand the conjugations of the verbs that end in er. For conjugating the first person verb, we remove the er and we replace it with an e. For example, in aimer verb, it will become j'ai. So we have replaced the er and instead of it we have put an e. Similarly, for the second person, we will add an es ending. So the aimer of the second person will become tu aim. And so on, we remove the er ending and conjugate the verb. So the conjugations of the aimer verb are je aime, tu aimes, il aime, elle aime, on aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, il aime, and elle aime. Another example for an er ending verb is the chanter verb. And the conjugations for the chanter verb are je chante, tu chantes, il chante, elle chante, on chante, nous chantons, vous chantez, ils chantent, and elle chante. These were the rules of how to conjugate the verbs that end with er, but there are some exceptions. For example, the verbs that end in ger, there we add an e before the letter o in the nu form in order to preserve the pronunciation of the g. For example, in the manger verb, it becomes nous mangeons. So we have added an e after the g to preserve the pronunciation of the manger verb. Another exception is for the verbs that end with cer. The C becomes a C with a sidel before the letter O in nu form, again to preserve the pronunciation. For example, the lance verb, the nu form will become nous lançons. Here we have added a C with a sedil. For verbs ending in yer, the Y becomes and I in the singular form and as well as the third person plural form. For example, the envoyer verb. Here we have replaced the Y with an I. So the spelling becomes ENVOI and then whatever ending we are adding. So the conjugations become je envoyer, tu envoyer, il envoyer, and so on. For verbs that end in AYER, we can either write I or Y. For example, the payer verb, here we can either use the Y as it is or we can change the spelling to PAI. For many verbs that end in ELER or ETER, the final consonant is doubled before a silent E. For example, in the appeler verb, the conjugation becomes il appelle. The spelling becomes APPELLE. Now, if the final syllable of the word stem contains an E or an E with an accent, we give it a grave accent, that is an axograph, in its conjugated form, apart from the first and the second person plural. So here the paise verb becomes je paise, tu paise, elle paise, nous paissons, vous paissez, and elles paissent. Here, other than nous and vous, we have put an accent on the E. These are some of the exceptions to remember while conjugating words that end in ER. Next are the first type of verbs that end in IR. They are conjugated by removing the IR at the end and adding the particular endings. For example, the fini verb is conjugated as je finis, tu finis, elle finit, nous finissons, vous finissez, and elle finissent. Another verb that is conjugated in the same way is the agir verb. Now, the agir verb is conjugated like je agis, tu agis, elle agit, nous agisons, vous agisez, and elle agissent. Some of the most commonly conjugated verbs this way are applaudir, choisir, grandir, etc. The next are the second types of ER verb. There are two types of IR ending verbs in the second type. Ones that are conjugated the same way as the ER verbs. For example, the offre verb. It is conjugated like je offre, tu offrez, elle offre, nous offrons, vous offrons, and elles offront. Some other verbs that are conjugated in the similar way are couvrir, découvrir, ouvrir, souffrir, etc. And the other type of IR ending verbs are conjugated by using S, S, and T in the singular form. For example, the dormir verb is conjugated like je dors, tu dors, il dort, elle dort, nous dormons, vous dormez, and elles dorment. Some other verbs that are conjugated in the similar way are courir, fuir, monter, partir, etc. Now, the verbs venir and tenir are completely irregular verbs, so they are not conjugated in the same way as the IR ending verbs. Their conjugations are given in the slide. The next type of verbs are the verbs ending with RE. They are conjugated similar to how the dormir verb was conjugated. So, for example, the construire verb is conjugated as je construis, through. The construire verb is conjugated like je construis, tu construis, elle construit, nous construisons, vous construisez, and elles construisent. Other verbs that are conjugated like this are conduire, déduire, instruire, etc. Another example for RE ending verb is vivre verb, which is conjugated like je vis, tu vis, elle vit, nous vivons, vous vivez, and elles vivent. Some exceptions to these conjugations are the verbs that end in être, such as connaître, paraître, naître, and their variations, are conjugated in the following way. The connaître verb is conjugated as je connais, tu connais, elle connaît, nous connaissons, vous connaissez, and elles connaissent. Many verbs that end in IRE like boire and croire, are irregular verbs and they change their stem in the plural forms. So there is no general rule to learn the conjugations. It's just best to learn them by heart. So for example, in the boire verb, the conjugation for the new form becomes nous bouvons and vous buvez. The spelling has changed. These were some of the exceptions for the conjugations of the verbs ending in re. The next are verbs ending in dre and tre. Now they are conjugated similar to the re ending verbs, but for il, l, and o, the dre and tre endings are simply removed and no other ending is added. For example, the want verb is conjugated like je want, you want, il, elle want, nous vendons, vous vendez, and il, elle vendons. As you can see in il, elle, and o, the dre was simply removed and no other ending was added. So the spelling becomes vent. Another verb conjugated like this is the mettre verb. It is conjugated like je mets, tu mets, il, elle met, nous mettons, vous mettez, and il, elle mettent. Some of the exceptions are the verb prendre and its related forms like apprendre, comprendre, etc. They lose the D in their plural forms, and in addition, the N is doubled in the third person plural form. So, for example, the prendre verb, the conjugations become je prends, tu prends, il, elle prend, nous prenons, vous prenez, and il, elle prenons. So, in the plural form of il and elle, the N is doubled, and in nous form and vous form, the D is removed. For the verbs ending in indre, like the peindre verb, they lose the D in the singular and the plural forms. And in addition, we make the N to GN in the plural forms. So the conjugation for the peindre verb becomes je peins, tu peins, il, elle peint, nous peignons, vous peignez, and il, elle peignons. In the plural forms, we have replaced the N with a GN and we have removed the D from the singular and plural forms. Next are the verbs ending in OIR. They are conjugated similar to how we conjugate the verbs that end in RE. So the recevoir verb becomes je reçois, tu reçois, il, elle reçoit, nous recevons, vous recevez, and il, elle recevons. Some other verbs that are conjugated this way are apprecevoir, concevoir, decevoir, etc. Some other OIR ending verbs such as avoir and d'avoir are irregular verbs and they are not conjugated the same way as recevoir. The last are the irregular verbs. The most commonly used irregular verbs are avoir, être, aller, and faire. So the conjugations of these verbs are as follows. For the avoir verb, it is j'ai, tu as, il, elle a, on a, nous avons, vous avez, and il, elles ont. For the être verb, the conjugations are je suis, tu es, il, elle est, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, and il, elles sont. For the aller verb, the conjugations are je vais, tu vas, il, elle va, on va, nous allons, vous allez, and il, elles vont. The faire verb is conjugated like je fais, tu fais, il, elle fait, au fait, nous faisons, vous faites, and elles font. That is how some of the most commonly used irregular verbs are conjugated. So this is how we conjugate the verbs in present tense in French language. Most of the regular verbs are conjugated according to the specific rules, but there are some exceptions that need to be remembered just as it is. And the irregular verbs are conjugated differently, irrespective of how they are ending. So therefore their conjugations have to be remembered as it is to use the present tense correctly. Thank you.